Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.
Hello, and welcome to Behind the Mirror of Music. My name is Dannii Cohen. This week's guest is Charles Gray. Charles Gray has performed on Broadway and around the world in Dreamgirls, Ragtime, The Bodyguard, The Color Purple, Five Guys Named Mo, Grease, and much more. Most recently, he has moved into film and television work as well as clothing design. In our interview, we discuss his career on stage as well as life and art in America under the current political climate. Art is there to bring light into the world during dark times, which drove Charles to create his new apparel line, LOC, Left of Center Statement Wear, with the tagline, Wear the Change You Want to See. I hope you'll enjoy the show.
Okay. And then there's that. So what can I tell you?
What are you doing right now in your life and career?
Right now in my life and career, the reality is I have reached that age, or should I say my father has reached that age where I am an adult taking care of a parent. So my theatrical career has had to take a pretty much of a back seat. Um, I was just on with my accountant because I've changed accountants, and the firm that I was with specialized in theater. And I was trying to explain to this new accountant all of the deductions that I'm supposed to get because they're not accustomed to dealing with theatrical people. It's Previously, I spent a lot of time pretty much on stage doing a lot of that. But now my focus has pretty much turned to voiceover television and film because these are things that they don't take you away for long periods of time. I just auditioned for a production up at Goodspeed that would have had me relocate for 3 months. You know, I'm not really in a position to do that right now. My father owns a bunch of properties, excuse me, and I have to manage those. We have some tenants that are moving out and some big renovations that are going to be going on. And I'm actually going to Maryland, where we're from, next week so that I can go down and look at a project and figure out, you know, if we're going to expand rooms and things like that. So that has pretty much taken over my life. So what I fit in when I can, I mean, I was fortunate, like the end of last year, back to back to back, I got a Wendy's voiceover, so not Wendy's, a White Castle voiceover, and then I got an episode on The Equalizer with Queen Latifah, an episode of Law and Order, and a feature film with Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson that's going to be coming out sometime later this year, I assume. So those kind of all happened kind of back to back. This year, the first thing that I've gotten is this show that I'll be shooting tomorrow upstate. It's a new Tracy Morgan show. It's just a pilot, I believe, is what we're doing tomorrow. And I continue to audition for things. I continue to write music and try to just be creative. I think it's the artist in you. It's what you do. It's how you express yourself. So ultimately, I'm always going to be creating, whether it's at the forefront of what's happening in my life or not. There's always going to be a certain level of creativity. In fact, I wrote a song called "Good Trouble," motivated by a lot of what's going on politically in this country right now, and I trying to find somebody to help me produce it. And I wasn't getting anywhere with that, but the words that I had written for the song, I thought were poignant enough that they would actually make good t-shirts. So I have created an entire line called Left of Center shop, and they are now available on Etsy and TikTok Shop and stuff. And so I've been pouring a lot of energy into that, but it all started with a song, you know, and I still hope to get the song out, which would be kind of hysterical to have this stuff up on the shop and then like maybe have the song playing in the background as you're clicking around through the t-shirts and hoodies and things. That would be kind of funny. But that's really where my focus has been right now. I was fortunate. My mother passed in 2019, and I was coming off of the Bodyguard tour, and I had actually had a round of cancer, but I had done chemo while I was doing the show and gotten through it. And when the show was over, I went to visit my mother. It's extremely close to my mother. And it turned out that she had just gotten a terminal diagnosis, a different type of cancer. So I was in a really great spot right then. I had just finished doing a fairly long tour. I was in kind of like healing mode, but it was all good because I had gotten cleared. I was fine. So I basically just moved in with her and was able to be with her through all of that. So that was a really important time for me. My father, I'm not necessarily as close to, but he's my father. So, and he's dealing with some mild dementia. So, I needed to step in. So I've just done what I can, and we talk every single day. And I've gotten a full-time live-in care person, and all of that's happening and working, but it still requires daily input, and like I said, I pretty much run his life. So all the bills, all the decisions, and everything having to do with the properties, that takes up a lot of time.
Imagine, yes.
So it really doesn't leave me a whole lot of time to do much of anything else, and certainly not anything that would take me away for any period of time. So my projects are fairly limited. They are things that I can do, in a day, in a week. I did a stage reading a few weeks ago. A friend of mine wrote a new play, so I went into New York for a few days and we did that. Those are the things I can fit in and manage. So that's I guess I had questioned when you were talking about interviewing me. I was like, yeah, but I don't have a whole lot going on. I mean, I've been at it for a long time, but I don't have a lot of active projects going on right now.
Still wonderful if you can still put some creativity in your life despite all this going on with you.
Well, it gives me a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
I think probably the lowest points in my life have not been about loss or illness or anything like that. They have been moments where I've lost touch with creativity.
Yes.
Where I didn't feel like I was an artist in any way, where I was just going through the motions, going to work, paying the bills, doing those things. That depresses me horribly. If I don't have something, some spark, some project that allows my mind to really work and feel like I'm creating something that matters. I guess you could say it's kind of a fight for relevance in a way. But I just feel like that's the life's blood. That's what really motivates me and gets me excited and makes me want to get up and face the day and see what there is to do. That's what excites me.
Yes, I can understand it because it's partly the reason why I began this show. I used to for myself, but had to stop because of health reasons. Then search for a way to stay connected to the world of art and theater. And
There you go. There you go. I understand completely. Because that's it. I mean, just just because things don't go as you would hope they would go, doesn't mean that you have to dismiss that, or that you even can dismiss that aspect of your life, because it's so much a part of who you are, your fundamental identity, that you can't just turn it off like a switch and expect everything to just be happy-go-lucky and continue. You need that energy in your life. You need those people. You need that interaction, and that's what makes you feel whole, I guess.
I guess so too. I think a lot of people outside the world don't understand sometimes the way you see things or hear things, or sometimes you see things in a moment in your life that you can see something really artistic or fun, and a theater person or an artistic person would understand, but other people sometimes don't.
They don't. They don't at all. I have so many conversations when I go down to see my father, and I'm, around his friends and stuff and other relatives, and I'll try to have a conversation about something that means something to me, and inevitably they're like, "Oh, yeah, I never really thought about it," and that's pretty much it. That's the end of the conversation. We just move on. I'm like, "Okay, that was fun. Good to see you." I fully understand.
How did that start for you? Your love for theater, music as everything?
My mother was extraordinary, and I started singing at a very young age. I was a part of a choir in school, and my voice was extremely high when I was a little kid, extremely high, and I ended up getting, I guess, the position of being like the lead tenor in the state, not tenor, soprano, in the state when I was in these little choirs and things. And then I don't know, I think as early as I can consciously remember being put forth to sing as early as like elementary school. And then by the time I was in maybe junior high school, I had done a couple of school productions, and this woman approached my mother about giving me voice lessons. So that started when I was early teens. So it kind of got to be a given that I was going to go in that direction, because that's what I was doing. I was singing, and that's what made me special. That's what made me stand out. Everybody had their thing, and I was not the sports guy, and I was not. My mother helped write the math curriculum for the state of Maryland at the time, and she was an absolute whiz in that respect. I was not. But I could sing. So I went to school, but it's funny. I went to school really not understanding what I was working towards. I didn't have other friends or acquaintances that knew anything about theater or performance or anything really. The curriculum at the school that I went to, there was no musical theater curriculum. There was simply, and there was a huge division between the acting department and the voice department, which was so bizarre. So if you were with the voice department, you studied opera, and that was it. And if you were with the acting department, you studied acting, but that was it. But the disciplines were all completely separate. The dance department was there, singing was there, acting there. There was no such thing as a musical theater program. So that said, when I got to New York, I was utterly unprepared. The only thing that I could use to compete was my voice, because that again was what made me special. I wasn't, I didn't, I took maybe 5 or 6 dance classes while I was in college, and I wasn't great. I took no acting at all. it was just not, there was no time for it with everything else going on. So when I got to the city, I really didn't, I didn't know better. I was ridiculously naive. Nobody ever wanted to give me credit for that. But the reality is I was extremely naive. I didn't know about these programs at Carnegie Mellon and all these other wonderful institutions that had musical theater programs so that everybody came in as a triple threat. They knew how to dance, they knew how to act, they knew how to sing, and they had, you know, whole communities and departments and teachers and methodologies and things. They were coming to it, understanding the business of theater, how to go about it. They had agents before they ever got out of school. They had all kinds of stuff. I went to New York, not a freaking clue. And it was all about survival for me, really, you know, trying to find jobs to be able to have a place to stay and support myself. So my money and my focus was really about just being able to stay in the city and manage. I was there for at least 3 years before I had the opportunity to even think about doing an audition, because I was too busy just trying to pay rent, you know, and keep food in my mouth. So when I finally did, you know, I started to get gigs and I did what I did, but I learned a lot of what I learned just by absorbing from the people around me. I auditioned for the first national tour of Dreamgirls in front of Michael Bennett and Michael Peters. And I walked in, and this is back in the old days when you would do it in the theater.
Yes.
So we were in the, because it was a brand new show still running on Broadway. So this was during the day while the theater was empty. And Michael Bennett and Michael Peters were sitting out in the middle of the house. And there'd be this long line outside the theater, everybody waiting to go in and audition. And they'd call you up, and one by one, you'd go to the center of the stage and introduce yourself and do what you had to do. And I walked in and I sang what I knew. Let's remember where I came from. I came from a straight opera background. I had no anything else. I had never been in a band. I didn't know pop music, really. So I walk up and I sing Simple Song from Bernstein's Mass. And I get they were generous. They gave me about 32 bars. And they stopped me. And Michael Bennett gets up and goes, "Do you have anything black?" This is long before we worried about PC. So I was like, well, not really, but I did just finish doing this production. It was a summer theater program that we had done at my college. And I had been the assistant director for this production of The Wiz.
Oh, yeah.
And the kid who was playing the role of The Wiz broke his leg the day before he was supposed to go on. So I had to learn it and go on. So I ended up singing So You Wanted to Meet the Wizard. And when I finished it, they were like, "Well, you should have done that in the first place." I was like, okay. And the funny thing is, they were going to hire me for the tour. And they had called me in while they were in rehearsal so that I could sign my contract. And I'm here, I'm ready, you know, I'm going in. This is back when everything was done down at 890 Broadway Studios, which was a massive space, and it was really cool. And I went in, and Michael Peters was behind this desk with all these folders in front of him. And he looked up and he looked at me, and he like starts to flip through the books, and he's like talking to people, and because he stopped, because I was pen in hand, ready to sign this contract. And he called the casting people back over, and they flipped through all these things, and he went, "Hmm." And they all looked, and they looked at me, and they looked at that, and they looked at that, and did one of those. And then finally, they decided that I looked too much like somebody that was already in the show.
Oh.
And so they did not hire me. I'm standing there, pen in hand. It was quite the experience. But But the long and the short of it is, I guess I ended up doing Dreamgirls, 2 productions of it later, with a lot of amazing, amazing performers, and very consciously gave myself a lesson in how to riff, how to sing gospely blues R&B, because I just did not have it in my ear or in my head or in my body to produce that kind of sound. And I also had a very different speech pattern when I came to New York. Everybody who spoke to me on the phone thought I was white. And it was just a whole different thing. And the 80s, I got to New York in 82. So this was a time when all the black, yes, you had the Ain't Misbehaving, the Shuffle Along. There was a whole series of black Broadway shows. So if you didn't tap dance or sing R&B or scream gospel, you were pretty much not going to be working because they all seemed to function on that formula. It was that or an August Wilson play, you know. So yeah, I learned a lot on the job. 90% of I think what I've really learned in this business has just been absorbing it, being fortunate enough to get jobs with great people, and then just sucking up as much as I could while I was there. I've now done a whole series of plays, which came to me very, very late in life. I think I was in my 50s before I did my very first play. And I've done a few now, and I feel great about it, but I still haven't. I mean, I've had maybe 3 acting classes in my entire life. It's all just been doing it. So every time I get a film or some part on a TV show or something, I kind of laugh because it's like, wow, isn't that something? I don't, I watch a lot of BBC shows and foreign films and things, but I find that I don't do it well with others because I'm not just watching it, I'm studying it. I'm really, really paying attention to camera angles and the choices that the actors are making in terms of, how broad or how subdued something is, and how much can be conveyed with just the slow turn of a head and a slight lift of an eyebrow. I mean, all of those things, they are the essence of communication, and that has come to me a lot more through observing than it has in a class type situation. So that's my journey.
There are a lot of actors who didn't go to acting school or were rejected and then became famous because they indeed, as you say, observed and were more natural because of that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know what they had learned, but what they felt.
I think I've had some really great directors who let me experiment and explore and go to the. I tend to go too far and then reel it in, which I've found that a lot of people appreciate because a lot of times they're trying to pull something out of a person, and I don't know. In general, I don't have that as a problem. I can go there, but then we kind of whittle it down, and then it's like, okay, that's it. Give me that. It feels kind of crazy and brave in the moment to take it to whatever extreme I'm feeling. But then a lot of that has changed as well because I've gotten older, so the roles have changed, and I'm getting surly old cranky guy or something, you know, or dad or grandpa or all of the above. So they're in general, they're not extreme in any way. They're just wise. um, they may have quite a bit of attitude or an opinion about something, but they have a way of conveying it. And, you know, it's not ultimately that far from who I am when I'm not on. So yeah. I think I'm finding my niche. I thought I would kind of I guess I was really concerned that I would age out. Um, but I guess I have to acknowledge as a man that's not as much of an issue in this business. I think it's much harder on women when they get older to find parts. For some reason, there seems to be an old man in just about everything. So I just have to lean into playing it, you know, and not try to be in some level of denial, you know, wanting to play something in. And also, you know, you never know what they're going to choose. Like the gig that I did on Law and Order, when I got the script, I was like, "Are you sure you want me to do this?" Because it was written as written in the script. It was the guy was supposed to be in his early to mid 40s. And I was like, well, I missed that by about 20 years. So I'm not sure what you really want me to do, but they hired me anyway. So I was like, okay, you know, sometimes you just have to kind of just trust it and go with it. And that seems to be working right now. So I'm happy with it.
Glad it does. And I think sometimes it's the age isn't as important as the character you bring, I guess.
Right.
It's
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I'm having to trust. But there's always that little voice in the back of your head, you know. But yeah, I think the more when I was younger, I used to try to reinvent myself for every audition, which was pointless and didn't, you know, in some ways it worked enough that I worked regularly, but it was hell on me mentally, emotionally. Whereas now I don't. You know, I'm like, this is what I bring. Can you use that? And that's pretty much my feeling about it, you know. And I do. I just walk in and I give them the best of what I can offer, and hope that that's what they're interested in. But I don't try to like reinvent the wheel anymore. It's like, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm working with. Because I'm such time has taken such a. I was so different 20 years ago. I was so different. I weighed 20 pounds more and it was all muscle and I had hair and my face was full and I was that guy. And I acknowledge that a lot of the jobs I got because of the way that I was built, because it was clear, because they exploited it in each of the shows. If you're walking around half naked for most of the shows that you're doing, I think it's pretty clear that they're hiring you for your body as much as anything else. And those days are so far behind me that I've had to kind of just go, okay, well, who am I now? And what do I still have to offer? But it's actually been good because it means that I have to, instead of relying on the visuals, I have to actually come with some essence. And that requires me to actually act. And by not singing so much and doing more acting roles, it's brought out a whole different part of who I am. And finally, at this point, I'm really accepting the fact that, okay, I still genuinely have something to offer. And it's from a completely different perspective than what I was offering before. So it's been a lesson for me in adapting and accepting who I am and respecting what I have to offer and valuing that enough myself that I feel comfortable presenting it to others and saying, okay, this is me.
Good. Great that you have found yourself in so many ways. And I think when you get older, the acting roles do get deeper in some ways.
Mm.
You can bring your experience and your own thought process. You probably know what you're doing more than in the past when you were still searching for what you wanted to do and
Yes,
wanted to bring it.
yes, yes. I think now I've got enough experience behind me that I can look at a script fairly quickly and go, oh, that's what this character is, and I can sum it up for me. You know, like I'll recognize, yeah, there's a lot of different directions that this could go in, but this is the path that I'm going to choose, and then I'll just invest in that completely. So, if nothing else, they will have gotten the full dose of my version of that, you know, and let the other people do as they will. But my version is going to be committed. uh, and it will be as much as I can give to it. So yeah, I do have a lot more clarity in that respect.
What have been some of your favorite roles over the years?
Hmm. I did many moons ago. I did Cohen in Ragtime, and funny story. Brian Stokes Mitchell was about to do, I believe it was either Man of La Mancha or I can't remember the name of the other show. She Loves Me, something like that. He was across the hall rehearsing from where I was doing the audition for this production. And I had met him before, but I mean, it wasn't like we were friends, but I knew who he was. He had met me. Um, and when I went in to do my audition for this production, he walked in behind me, and he like leans over to the director and because it's the whole panel behind the table, and he's like, "This guy, he's got it. Trust me, you're gonna love him." And I'm like, "What the hell?" It was the craziest thing. And then he walks out, and that was it. And I was like, "Well, there's an introduction. I better live up to it." And they hired me, so it was kind of funny. I very much like that. I found that I've only done two Broadway shows, Color Purple and Grease. Um, I found over the years that my favorite productions were not really the Broadway productions. They were the smaller, uh, more unique, new theater type things, roles that, if the shows had gone on and become huge, then yay. But most of them kind of didn't. But those were opportunities where I got to really invest in characters, and there's something about shaping and creating a new character as opposed to just rehashing something that's been done so many times before. Those moments tended to be a lot more gratifying for me. Yeah, I think that I did the guy's named Mo twice. I did the first national, um, and then I did another small production of it. So the second time I did it, I did Eat Mo, but the first time I did Four-Eyed Mo, and I enjoyed that. I sang backup for Kubota Toshinobu in Japan for 3.5 months. It was a huge Coca-Cola sponsored tour. We had, we flew everywhere. They had little Coke cans they made cartoon characters of everybody in the band. And they had like little cartoons that they published is these tiny little books, and they put the cartoon characters on the side of Coke cans, these little small Coke cans. And we had billboards and we did TV shows, and we toured all over Japan, just everywhere, all the little islands, you name it, we hit it. I actually had a great time. It was, I mean, yes, I was doing backup and singing in Japanese, but it was great. You know, I got to play Yoyogi Auditorium, 30,000 people waving and singing, and it was pretty special.
And so
Yeah, just those types of moments. I think those tend to stand out for me.
great, especially I hear a lot about Asian tours seem to be so much fun for people because it's so different and there's so much excitement. See,
Well, they respond differently. They're very attentive. They're paying attention to absolutely everything, but they make no noise until it's over, and then they'll explode and they'll applaud and stuff. But like the you watch an average American show, people are yelling and screaming and applauding all the way through it. That doesn't happen. And they also build into the shows activities essentially to engage the audiences. So in the choreography, there's always going to be something where, you know, you're waving your hands or you're doing something, and they will mimic you. And it's just, that's the way it's built in, and everybody participates and everybody has a great time. It's hard not to enjoy it, really. For me, it was a little, because I don't smoke, I have allergies, and I couldn't go anywhere in Japan without having to deal with the cigarette smoke. It was like being in Russia. I couldn't go anywhere without. And I remember going to one restaurant thinking, okay, I've really gone out of my way. I looked it up, I did all the research, and I found a restaurant that had a non-smoking section. Well, it turns out the non-smoking section of this restaurant in Moscow was 6 tables in the middle of the room, and they had these fans positioned in the ceiling that blew down to keep the air moving around those. So one, you get is like this tsunami of like a hurricane, sorry, of wind coming at you, and all it's doing is circulating all the smoke that's already in the room anyways. So instead of like you just passively sucking up everybody else's smoke, it literally felt like somebody's like blowing it in your face while you're trying to eat. So I mean, my allergies. Oh my god, it was it was a little rough, but I had a great time being there. So you know, it is what it is.
that was a really unhelpful way to do things.
Say that again.
It seemed like a really unhelpful way to do that.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was. Didn't help me out at all, but you know, I mean, it's always interesting the cultural differences. Like when I toured with Riverdance, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, and pretty much everybody did. Not everybody smoked, but drinking is like the habit. It's what you do. Like the show ends and everybody heads to some pub and you know drinks. And I didn't, and it made me an outsider for a long time until you know a number of years into it. I toured with them on and off for like 12 years. So you know. At some point, I just kind of gave in and started drinking beer with people. I did discover in the process that in Europe, you have completely different beers than the swill we have in America. And I was only accustomed to what was here, and I couldn't stand it. But I actually liked the beers that I was drinking, like in Germany and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this is good. Like I even did a beer tour when we were in Belgium, which was fun and very enjoyable. But as soon as I broke that barrier, then everything was fine, and we could all get along. But it was kind of an obstacle, and it was just a cultural thing, I mean, my maternal grandfather was a minister, so nobody drank, nobody smoked, nobody cursed, nobody. It just was not a part of my world. So yeah, getting around is good because you need to learn. You need to learn that there are lots of other people in this world and they do things differently. And I think being exposed to as much of that as possible uh, helps. I wish everybody could have that experience because I think people would get along a lot better if they could be more conscious of the fact that their world and how they live it is not the end all be all. That there's lots and lots and lots of ways of living in this world. And if we could just be more open and accepting and understanding and respectful of that, I think we'd all get along a lot better.
That's so true. Something we really need to do, especially well, in this time when everything seems to be crazy.
Mm, yes,
Yeah.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So,
And then you have the whole online communities and all this.
and it's weird because it's like we're more connected than any other time in history,
Yes.
and yet more separated at the same time.
That's so true. I mean, it's really in the beginning, the internet seemed like a whole world community, and slowly there are these little groups, and now the groups are attacking each other.
Exactly. Everybody has like gone off into their own little place. It's like turning the world into a bad high school experience, where there's lots of clutches of little people.
Yes.
Everybody's got their own little group, and they only want to deal with their group. And now they can announce it to the entire world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So,
actually a great way of comparing it because you have these all these strange people who could gang up on a group or a single person and bitching and backstabbing and whispering behind your back.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, that used to be at least contained within, 20, 30, 100 people. Now it's spread out all over the world, and when it's a cry for injustice, that's great, but that's not the kind of stuff that makes the news. That's not the kind of stuff that goes viral. It's the bad stuff that people want to publicize the most and really, really get into. And unfortunately, that is kind of the world we're living in right now. So we can only participate to the best of our ability in trying to steer it in the right direction. Um, I'm coming up on a milestone. I'll be 65 in July, and for this country, that means that I'm eligible for Social Security. But my question is, will there still be Social Security by the time we get to July? I
Yes.
don't know. It's insane. How can I have lived this long, worked this hard all this time, and get to the point where I'm supposed to be able to kick back and retire on my Social Security only to find out that I may not be able to access that? So what am I supposed to do? Work till I'm 100? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. But yeah, this is where we are.
Yeah, it's just strange that a new government can come and change your whole world. And well,
I do not understand it.
yeah,
I cannot pretend to understand it. It just, yeah, I cannot pretend to understand. One of the things that I think I saw online, which really drove it home for me, was when they were talking about school shootings, in this country and how ridiculous it is. And all the government had to offer was thoughts and prayers. And they haven't done anything about the gun laws to change that or to protect the children. But, a couple of Teslas get vandalized and they pass a law to make it so that it's a felony to cause any harm to a Tesla specifically. Specifically, not all cars.
No.
Not all cars. But if you mess with a Tesla, you're going to jail.
Well, then because you've heard the president's special friends. Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That's just because you've heard the president's special friend, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So these are particularly interesting times we're in. And I think that's what's re-energized me to want to, that's what made me write the song. That's why I'm putting all this energy into getting these message t-shirts out, hopefully saying what people are thinking and giving them the ability to kind of passively protest. Because, they don't have to say anything. Just put it on, walk through the world, mind your own business. I had someone challenge me about it, and I was like, well, tell me, what exactly, I think their statement was that people should donate to the cause instead of buying t-shirts that'll just end up in the garbage anyway. And I was like, well, the whole purpose is for people to wear them and for these statements to be seen by others, and therefore it has an impact. Same impact that people walking around in MAGA hats has,
Absolutely.
Nobody talks about, oh, well, that's just going to end up in the trash anyway. The point is they put it on, it's making a statement, people are seeing it, and they're feeling a certain way about it. These shirts will do the exact same thing, but in a far more positive fashion. So that's my participation.
I'm just feeling that you live in America, and it must be so weird to not know the new laws and new plans. Every day you wake up, there must be something new.
Every day. Yeah. The African American History Museum is one of the most extraordinary experiences I think anyone could ever have. And I've been to a lot of museums. Growing up in Maryland, one of my things was taking advantage of the proximity to DC, and I would go to the Smithsonian all the time. It was, like 20 years later, kids would go to a mall to hang out. I would go to museums because it was free. It was there. It was lots and lots and lots of different things that you could experience, and it was fun. So, that was my thing. And I have to say, the African American Museum is one of the most extraordinary and educational, moving experiences that I've ever had. And the fact that they are attacking it now and trying to claim that it is giving a false narrative on American history. Seriously? Just the idea that it could even come under fire. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm so appalled that people are really trying to erase history now, that claiming
Exactly.
slavery didn't exist or it wasn't so bad, and the same with the Holocaust. They just don't want to have the bad parts.
Right.
Yeah, because they don't want to feel guilty, I guess.
Trying to teach in school that blacks were slaves before they came to this country. So that all they did was relocate them, because they were already slaves. It's like, oh, they weren't. It's like, what is wrong with you? And they literally have it in text in schools, and they want the right to teach that. But then critical race theory, which then teaches real history, is exactly what they don't want, and they get their backs up about that. So this is a time for artists.
Yes.
When things go completely off kilter, this is the time when the only real expression is through art, and people creating and sharing and bonding over these songs and written texts poems, books, novels, sculptures, all of it, paintings, all of it, just every form of expression, artistic expression, getting the truth out there and letting people come together and share in that. I think it's crucial. So in that respect, I'm thankful to be a part of this community. I just don't know. It's I don't know where it's going.
We'll have to wait 4 years to find out where we end up, I think.
Well, the hope is that it would be over in 4 years, but they're working very hard to make it so that there is no such thing as a term.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so that is an issue in itself.
It is.
So we'll see. It'll be interesting. It's funny, because I feel like I grew up in a time of race riots and civil rights and that fight. And then I come to New York and it's the AIDS epidemic. And I managed to live through that period. And then we had the pandemic. And fortunately, we got really sick, but we lived through that. And now look at where we I'm like, come on, can't we just even it out for a little while? Just until I pass, naturally. And let this be another generation's issues. But I feel like I've had enough. I feel like we've been through enough huge sections of life with this type of trauma that we just really don't need to do it again right now. I'd rather postpone. But that just makes it somebody else's problem, and I guess that's not fair. So we'll see.
And it was already a Trump era, so why is there another one?
Yep. And this one's going to be so much worse than the first one.
Absolutely.
Because they feel empowered and emboldened. And I live, we moved further south in Jersey, and I got a real lesson when we came down here because in northern Jersey, this is considered to be a Democratic state. However, South Jersey is Trump country for sure, and we are right in the middle of it.
Oh no.
And I have to tell you, when we first moved here, I was kind of freaking out a little bit. I would walk through the parking lot of Home Depot, which I spent half my life in Home Depot, and see all these bumper stickers on the trucks, because it's always some big old truck. And they were just so aggressive and caustic, and quite honestly, I don't understand how a lot of them are profane. And I'm sure if I had one of those bumper stickers on my car, the police would pull me over and give me some ticket for it, saying I can't flash that kind of profanity on the back of my car, for everybody to see. But these people, not a problem. It just doesn't seem to be an issue, and I just don't get it. But it has been, and kind of continues to be, an ongoing thing of just there are wonderful. It's a beautiful place to live. We're close to the beach and the ocean and stuff, and it's great in terms of the nature and the surroundings. But culturally, yeah. It's a whole world. It's so different than living in New York. I lived in New York for 31 years. So I'm truly the majority of my life. And I'm so accustomed to being surrounded by, one, every culture imaginable. There being lots and lots of different languages and things being spoken all the time. And people functionally getting along. I mean, we don't have to hold hands and go on a picnic, but just basically getting along. And then you come out here and everything looks so perfect and bucolic, but at the end of the day, I don't hang out with a lot of these people. I haven't made that many friends here. There are, and in some cases, it's kind of awkward. Like we have some neighbors that just can't seem to get enough of, they always want to know what I'm doing, and they're always saying hi every time they pass, and they're walking their dogs and stuff. But these are people who have huge Trump banners on their homes. You know? And I'm like, you got to pick a side. I'm sorry. I'd love to pretend that we could make this work, but when everything that you're doing is about erasing me as a human being, we can't be friends. I don't have that, whatever that is that can be in one's brain where you can switch that on and off and do that. I don't have that. So I tend to do a good bit of traveling to align myself with the friends that I already have and know and care about. And you know, I mean, yeah, we've met some people here that are cool, and I'm happy for it. But there's a lot of Trumpers here, and I don't go out of my way to give anybody a hard time. I just don't deal with them. So, and it's funny because this makes me think. I think it was like, we've been here 4 years now. I think it was like year 2, and I was walking my dog up the street, and I was singing. Nothing else to do, right? I'm walking my dog. So I'm just singing, mind my own business. Now, I'm not singing loud by any means. And this guy comes, he's on his front stoop with his wife, older man. And he just starts busting out laughing, really loud. And I look over at him and he goes, "Is that you singing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't realize you could hear that." He goes, "Well, yeah, we can. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Why would you walk around singing?" I'm like, I don't know. What makes you the troll from under the bridge? You know, it's like, why are you having an issue with somebody singing? Why is that weird for you? There's the question. Is it really that weird to you that somebody might actually have a song in their heart?
So weird.
So, you know, sometimes these situations, I just have to laugh and just go, I guess we won't be friends. See ya. Have a nice day. So yeah, balance. It's all about balance. And I guess I'm slowly but surely I'm finding it, like what is the new reality. But yeah, trying to keep up with the politics and the everyday of what are we facing today, what new hurdle have they created for us. It is challenging. I wanted to take my father uh, on a vacation. I took him to Mexico a few years back, and he really had a wonderful time. I found this amazing house right on the water, right on the Gulf. You walk right through. It's a infinity pool, and then the beach, and then the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, just extraordinary. And he wanted to go back, but now because of the way things are, and them questioning people's citizenship and stuff, and especially anybody of color, he's afraid to get on a plane. First he was afraid to get on a plane because he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to get back into the country. Now he's afraid to get on a plane because they pulled all the people out of the FAA and planes are just dropping from the sky. So, I don't think we're going to be taking any foreign vacations anytime soon. Wherever we go, we'll be driving.
And
It's crazy.
where I'm here, people are afraid to go to America because they are afraid to be stopped in customs, locked up, whatever that happens these days.
Yeah. There's no telling. There's literally no telling.
Yeah.
You don't know day by day, and especially now that they're doing these detention centers.
Yes.
Because they will snatch you and throw you in a detention center. You don't have any way to communicate with anybody. You can't tell anybody where you are. They can't find you. It's like some horror thing that you read, some movie that they would have made that clearly must have happened in some third world country, because that could never happen in America. Well, guess what? Yeah, these are interesting times. So to find the balance, we sit around and we write poetry and hum songs and, make t-shirts and whatever else we can do to keep things going. I cook too much and I'm eating too much, so. But I think it's all about just trying to find that balance, because what's the point if you're not able to enjoy yourself? What is the point, really?
True. I mean, you always got to find something to fight for, stay happy for, and live.
Right.
It.
Exactly.
Well, at least he gives you something to fight back to.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fun.
Yes.
I'm glad you found me. I still found it kind of funny. I was like, really? Me? Why? But it's a pleasure to meet you and discover a little bit about your world and what's going on over there. And I'm be very thankful that you're there and not here. I have a whole slew of friends who have moved out of the country. And they're always, hey, you can come too. It's like, yeah, but I can't while I'm taking care of my dad. So, yeah, these are interesting times.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, well, a lot of it trickles down to other countries. The attitude, the behaviors is coming here as well. So it's slowly going
Yes,
girls.
I've seen the results of that. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but very true. Very, very true.
And you have people like Musk who will just move into other countries' elections.
Because they're trying to spread that poison everywhere. Yeah. It's trying to understand I've never understood how people don't learn from history. Now, I'm convinced that one of the reasons that they're so big on trying to rewrite history and trying to keep people stupid and not let them know true history by, perfect example, setting up my Etsy shop. So one of the things that you have to do is search engine optimization, and a part of that is putting keywords and tags in with all of the different items that I'm selling. So I went to put keywords in for a t-shirt. And one of the things, because you're trying to figure out, well, what would people search? What would people type in as a search if they're looking for your product? So I put in Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Google, because this was on Google, because I was going to do a Google ad. Google rejected it. It said it was a banned term. Black Lives Matter was a banned term. I could not put that in association with a t-shirt to sell it online. That is rewriting everything. I mean, it's insane. Insane. But you do that, and then people don't know, and then they don't learn. So they can't reference the fact that all this stuff has already happened.
Yes.
They are working a Nazi playbook. All of this stuff has already happened. All you got to do is pick up a book and read it. But they don't want anybody to see that.
And then you got the people who say that can't happen today because we got the internet. No, they adapt the internet to fit their thing.
Yeah. But now they're going in and actually editing stuff out of the internet. Like
yes.
They're certainly erasing Black American history out of books, out of the Library of Congress, out of If you look up there's a whole series of things. If you try to look it up on Google, all of a sudden it doesn't show up anymore. Or they'll say they don't have information on it.
Yeah, I got the same. Things I used to find and I know are there, I can't find anymore.
There you go. So, you know, it's all pervasive, and it's a little frightening. It's more than a little frightening, but I think it's up to us to somehow stay positive and keep putting the truth out there.
Yes.
And the truth will come through in art. It will. But we just have to be persistent and brave enough to continue to make that happen, because people want to know. There are plenty of people that want to know. These troublemakers are not the majority. They never have been. They just speak louder. So we've got to balance that out. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So you keep doing what you're doing, and finding people and telling their stories, and hopefully you'll get your audience will grow, and you'll be able to share things that need to be shared.
I hope so too, because what you're saying, it's exactly what I want. I want to share at least the history of theater before it all disappears, what's happened and how it grew, and well, hopefully doing a series of Black voices too, because that's so important, especially now.
Especially now, so yeah. True. Well, thank you. This has been fun.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing well, how your project evolves with well, the T-shirts and the songs. I really, if I can help promote it, I absolutely will.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, get it out. It's funny. The I've had it's only been up for maybe 3 weeks now, and I've gotten like a total of like 7 sales. But my very first sale was a hoodie that says "Good Trouble" on it, and to some lady in the Netherlands. She paid more for the shipping and handling than she did for the sweatshirt. And I was like amazed. I was like, really? So, you know, I'm all for it. Yeah, send it out there. Let everybody know. I may have a whole market out there that I was not even aware of. All right. We'll have a wonderful time. Thanks again, and I'm gonna move on.
You have a wonderful time too, and well, best of health to your father, and I hope everything will work out.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.